North Korea, China stomping on red line in relations. North Korean state media warned Thursday Beijing was crossing a red line in its relationship with Pyongyang, in a rare criticism of its closest ally. A commentary in the state-run newspaper Rodong Sinmun vowed North Korea would not give up its nuclear program. It accused China of dancing to the tune of the US and providing Washington excuses to deploy more military assets to the Korean peninsula. The commentary urged two Chinese state-run newspapers, The People's Daily and Global Times, to refrain from making reckless remarks which risked undermining relations between the two countries. It comes after increased criticism of North Korea in Chinese state media amid heightened tensions in the region. We'll never beg. Rodong Sinmun specifically criticized the Chinese media's call for more sanctions against North Korea as a way to avert war. We didn't cross the red line of the North Korea-China relationship, the commentary said. China is violently stomping on and crossing it without hesitation. It said the two Chinese publications asserted the North Korean nuclear weapons program was a threat to China. They even talked rubbish that North Korea strains the situation in Northeast Asia and offers the US excuses for deploying more strategic assets in the region, said the commentary attributed to an author named Kim Kil. The commentary said North Korea's nuclear program exists to protect the country from invasion and Pyongyang would not scrap it to ease tensions. North Korea will never beg for the maintenance of friendship with China, risking its nuclear program which is as precious as its own life, no matter how valuable the friendship is, it said. Analysts say North Korea appears concerned about the new threat posed by the administration of US President Donald Trump. North Korea sees Trump is more willing to use force, said Robert Ross, a Boston College professor and China policy expert. Chinese policies seem to be encouraging American policy and this has aroused concern in North Korea. Scott Snyder, senior fellow for Korea Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations, said North Korea's statements were indirect evidence of the pressure Beijing is putting on the Kim Jong-un regime. But Snyder cautions that may not bring the result Washington wants, an end to North Korea's nuclear program. A full break in Sino-North Korean relations would underscore North Korea's independence, Snyder said. Hyper-aggressive. Asked about the commentary Thursday, Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesman Zheng Shuang said Beijing had been firm in its call for the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula to maintain the peace and stability of the region. Global Times, a state-sanctioned tabloid, slammed the Rodong Sinmun in a rebuttal Thursday. The editorial is nothing more than a hyper-aggressive piece completely filled with nationalistic passion, it said. Pyongyang is obviously grappling with some form of irrational logic over its nuclear program. But it did offer slight praise for Pyongyang for not yet conducting a sixth nuclear test and for being comparatively restrained in recent missile tests. The last of those was last week, when a North Korea test missile exploded over North Korean territory, before it reached the ocean. Meanwhile, the US has continued military drills that have infuriated North Korea. The latest of those was Monday, when two US B-1 bombers from Guam conducted a joint drill with South Korea and Japan's air forces over the Korean peninsula, according to the US Air Force. After that exercise, Pyongyang said the US actions were bringing the region to a point close to nuclear war. CNN's Nanlin Fang contributed to this report. Lowe's just told offended Muslims and their liberal supporters where to stick IT with this move. Nice. Lowe's has pulled the plug on running advertisements during the care-backed television show All American Muslim on TLC. The problem was no one was watching this misguided concept of a show. Does this really come as a surprise to anyone? The ratings are so dismal that it's become clear that the liberal minority who is constantly kissing up to the Obama administration's plan to prosecute anyone who says something negative about Muslims is a tiny, yet loud one. It's this same small and vocal minority of liberals that are now calling for a ban on Lowe's for being Islamophobes. Wow. These people are demanding Lowe's throw their money away on advertisements that will reach hardly anyone just to satisfy their liberal agenda. That doesn't sound so all-American at all, does it? More from GOP The Daily Dose. Ratings plummeted into the toilet for TLC's The Learning Channel show, All American Muslims. The show, supported by the terrorism-linked Council on American Islamic Relations, CAIR, and other pro-Islam organizations, was used to portray active Muslim families, who are strict followers of their faith, as a peaceful community. Yet, Americans don't want to watch such politically correct nonsense. With such low ratings, Lowe's decided to drop them in as a sponsor. Lowe's was attacked by the left for dropping the show, including newly elected Congressman Ted Lieu, DCA, who called Lowe's bigoted, shameful, and un-American. Apparently, in his mind, Lowe's doesn't have the right to decide where their advertising dollars should end up, even if the show's ratings were horrible. CAIR is also furious about the decision, and called for a national boycott of the hardware giant. Breaking: Trump just did something huge for churches that will make God smile. Thank God our churches are saved. All praises go to the Lord our God today after President Donald Trump signed a huge executive order that takes down one of the nastiest liberal laws of all. Trump just took down the church-hating Johnson Amendment. This essentially means that, as of today, churches and places of worship can begin supporting politics without risking their tax-exempt status. While signing the bill, Trump said, "Today my administration is leading by example as we take historic steps to protect religious liberty in the United States of America. We will not allow people of faith to be targeted, bullied or silenced anymore." The Johnson Amendment isn't the only big thing President Trump did to save religion today. His order also makes it so religious organizations no longer have to pay for things like abortion under Obamacare. I think it's also important to say that today Donald Trump fulfilled one of his biggest campaign promises. He said he would repeal the Johnson Amendment and protect churches, and that's exactly what he is doing now. So let's all send as many shares and amens to the President as well as our benevolent Lord Almighty for this act today. You know God Himself is looking down and smiling knowing that our churches are safe again. IT official: Obamacare is dead. Millions Americans are cheering. House Republicans on Thursday narrowly approved a sweeping health care bill aimed at fulfilling their campaign promise to upend Obamacare, after bringing out the legislative defibrillators to resuscitate a package that had flatlined on the floor not 6 weeks earlier. The revised American Health Care Act passed on a 217-213 vote. The passage marked Republicans' biggest step yet toward replacing the Affordable Care Act. The bill heads next to the Senate, however, where it faces an uncertain fate. All Democrats voted against the bill on the House floor Thursday afternoon, warning it would jeopardize coverage. 20 Republicans voted no. But GOP leaders cheered the result, and President Trump invited ally lawmakers to the White House for a celebratory press conference. "A lot of us have been waiting 7 years to cast this vote," House Speaker Paul Ryan said Thursday. Capping a fiery debate moments before the vote, Ryan appealed to colleagues to move beyond Obamacare, which he called a collapsing law and failed experiment. Citing the situation in Iowa, where the last statewide insurer is threatening to leave, Ryan said, "This is a crisis. What protection is Obamacare if there is no health care plan to purchase in your state?" Health Secretary Tom Price told Fox News America's newsroom earlier Thursday that he expects the Senate to ensure the best possible bill emerges and rejected criticism that the GOP plan to replace the Affordable Care Act would lead to reduced coverage. "What we want to do is have a seamless system, not pull the rug out from anybody," Price said, claiming the proposal would ensure people with pre-existing conditions remain covered. That issue is a major point of contention. Breaking: Look what Obama's $150 billion cash gift to Iran just bought. America is screwed. For the past 8 years, Barack Hussein Obama committed treason against the American people as he worked tirelessly to embolden our enemies while doing everything within his power to stab us in the back. One of his main treasonous antics, as we all know, was the ridiculous nuclear deal, where he put our Iranian enemies on a path to nuclear arms, while giving $150 billion in U.S. cash in the process. Now a disturbing report has just surfaced about what Iran is doing with the billions in cash that Obama handed them, and it is nothing short of chilling. Iranian officials were more than eager to take billions in American taxpayer dollars from Obama, but that didn't make them any less dangerous to the United States. These idiots continue to chant death to America as Iranian officials are doing everything they can to develop nuclear weapons so they can wipe out the West. Now Iran's leaders are boasting that their defense budget, thanks to Obama, has increased a startling 145%, and they're now dumping massive amounts of money into building up their military forces and purchasing new equipment in what they brag will soon be an offensive fighting force. As Barack Hussein Obama and his Iranian terrorist sidekick Valerie Jordan are no doubt giddy with excitement over emboldening one of America's greatest enemies, leaders on Capitol Hill are in full panic mode, as insiders have reported that Iran's recent announcement of building up their arms has sparked major concern among U.S. national security leaders. The Free Beacon has more on this highly alarming report. Iranian leaders have stated since the Iran deal was enacted that they are using the massive amounts of cash released under the agreement to fund the purchase of new military equipment and other armaments. Iran also has pursued multi-million-dollar arms deals with Russia since economic sanctions were nixed as part of the deal. Leading members of Congress and U.S. officials working on the Iran portfolio suspect that at least a portion of the Obama administration's $1.7 billion cash payment to Iran has been used to fund and support terrorists in the Middle East. The latest disclosure about Iran's military buildup is further fueling concerns that U.S. cash assets return to the country, which were released with no strings attached by the Obama administration, are helping Iran pursue a more aggressive military stance against U.S. forces in the region. Representative Sean Duffy, R., Wisconsin, has been very vocal about